Welcome to another episode of Optometry Profits Revealed. I'm your host, Peter Precht, and today I am blessed to have a discussion with Danielle Crull. She's 38 years in as an optician. She's the owner of A Child's Eyes in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, which has been open 24 years. It's pretty amazing. The Truffles the Kitty organization, which we'll talk a great deal about today. And without any further ado, good to see you again, Danielle. Thank you for coming.
Hi. Hey, Peter. Thanks for having me. I appreciate
You know, we were talking, and we certainly want to talk about technology, but we've got to hit very succinctly on the changes that have happened in Mechanicsburg. I mean, just in the last 3 years, you've moved locations. Talk to me about the new setup there, what you're able to do.
it.
And also tell everybody about the focus of your practice. Obviously, the name gives it away. You're predominantly dealing with children, but that's not all that you deal with.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. A Child's Eyes. We've been in business since 2002. I started with, I think it was 500 square feet when I opened in 2002. I just moved into my first, second, third. This is my fourth building. When you're being blessed and you just want to be able to provide more and more for people, and so now I'm in 5,000 square feet, and in our building it's called Seymour Street, and it's formulated like a street in a town. So when you walk inside, to the right, you'll see a little sweet shop where it's for infants to toddlers, where they get to pick their glasses, and they have little order windows and little pickup windows here. And we have a little soda shop table. It's so fun because I will sit next to a mom or a dad at this soda shop table while they're holding a little toddler on their lap, and we're talking glasses. It's very relaxed, very comforting. We have surprises hidden all over the office. We have little sprinkles up on the ceiling and donuts and stuff like that. So everything's like a bit of a surprise as you come in there.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't been there yet. It doesn't look at all like a dispensary.
No.
But it is, and the trained eye will notice. Oh, there's frames, or here's where that is. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you design that on your own?
I did. Yeah. I mean, because I've been working with kids for so long, and it was so exciting to be able to design this. My daughter also worked with me too as we were talking, and designing things. I finally had a chance to take a space and make it work for me instead of trying to work inside a space that I had. And it just kind of really all fell into place. And so when kids come in, they don't really necessarily feel like they're being fit for glasses. They just have this very comfortable feeling. Even the waiting area, it has park benches. So the parents sit on park benches, or the kids sit there.
Right.
It's really fun. You have to come.
I do. Well, it's funny because the questions that I had are from I that hasn't seen it. But a lot of the questions I'm asking, okay, talk to me about a new tech and how it's easier there. It sounds like the entire design, the entire building, for lack of better terms, is that is what you're talking about. You designed it through the mind and the eyes of a child, which I think is really unique, because most of the pediatric practices that I see are focused on the MD and the surgery, and the eye care and the experience of getting eye care isn't talked about. It certainly isn't taught. And let's go right into what services that are very specific to what Truffles does in relationship to a child that's coming to see you, and how you deal with the parents as well.
So specifically you mean like the Truffles the Kitty organization and those types of services?
Yeah.
So Truffles, as a independent optician fitting glasses, so I've got Truffles out here, and then I have my job that I do here. And of course, Truffles became famous because of the job that she does here at A Child's Eyes, which is put glasses on and encourage kids to wear their glasses. And she
Right.
gives high fives and even wears an eye patch. So through the organization, we've been able to reach kids, all across the country, even all around the world. And she offers specific services. Particularly, she has a web application program for kids who are wearing an eye patch to help encourage them to wear their eye patch. She gives encouragement packages. We mail those through kids around the country who maybe just need encouragement for wearing their glasses or are going to have an upcoming surgery. She sends a little blanket to them or a little stuffed animal that they can have during their surgery. She encourages kids who do vision therapy as well. We wanted to make sure that we included that. We're currently working on a lot of things about myopia management and encouraging kids to wear their myopia control lenses, whether they be glasses or contact lenses. So everything that Truffles does is really about encouraging kids along their vision journey, celebrating their vision journey, and spreading awareness about their vision journey so that when you're walking down the street and you see a kiddo who's wearing an eye patch, you maybe understand what those reasons are, or a child who has an eye that turns, what might be happening that is happening. And it's all about celebrating the hard work that kids do. I think we often just the doctors say, oh, go and do this for 3 months. And then the child and the parent go and do this for 3 months and have no idea what to do or how to get through that. Right. And that's where Truffles really, really helps.
Yeah. Things are not going to be clear while we're trying to make them clear. Because that's hard to get your head around as a parent and most certainly as a child. I'm going to the eye doctor. I don't see any better. How do you police that? How does that? What a role! I mean, and Truffles is the perfect ambassador for that. At least, certainly in my heart. You and I both have a thing for cats, which is a little different. But that, talk about, and obviously the new walls, the new design, the new layout is a technology that helps. But even wearing an occluder. That's an odd technology that is old. So let's talk about your journey with that. I mean, how has that been easier to do with Truffles versus before?
You mean like wearing the eye patch and everything?
Right.
Yeah. Spreading awareness is a big thing. We have an initiative in October which is called the Pumpkin Patch Project. We've been doing for many years. It's a community initiative where we ask people to put a patch on their pumpkin to help spread awareness. Oh, cool. So I think spreading awareness is the big part. I think helping parents understand. I have seen such a misunderstanding to the point where there was a study that was done by the NIH that talked about how parents were patching the wrong eye because they misunderstood. They thought they had to patch the bad eye,
right?
So all of this misunderstanding. I've seen parents put patching on their child's, eye, their good eye, so that they have to use their amblyoptic eye, and then the child says, "I can't see," and the parent says, "Yes, you can." And I'm like, no, they can't, but that's okay because we're going to work around this. We're going to, help them see, and that's kind of the point of it. But all of that, it's not their fault. It's just the way our system is set up, and I'd love to talk a little bit about this. Is that you've got 5 minutes with the doctor, 5 minutes with the technician, 5 minutes with the doctor, and then you're left with the rest of your life dealing with whatever it is that's going on. And our system doesn't really set up very well to give parents, or all patients, we'll say, but I'm going to focus on kids because that's what I do, to give parents the proper information to do what really needs to be done. Right. And that is where I step in my business, as an independent optician. It took me a long time. We are trained, my employees, like when somebody says they call for an eye exam, and we don't do eye exams, Right. But to change our wording, we don't say we only fit glasses. We say we specialize in the fitting of eyewear because we want people to understand that this is its own entity. You know what I mean? It's not something that isn't as important as your eye exam. I would argue it's more important because you can give the best prescription
Right.
ever. And if the child doesn't wear the glasses, it does nothing. A prescription is a piece of paper until you make it into something. And that's what we do.
Right.
Um,
You know, look at the discussions in countries in the world where the optometrist is the optician, like
yeah.
where they're doing both roles. You know, the one or two man shop. All of the discussions are about what we talk about. All
Yeah.
of the discussions are about how do glasses interact with eyes,
Yeah.
face, duration. What are you doing? How long are you doing it? Why are you doing it? What do you love to do? Um,
Yeah,
you know,
understanding, eyewear can be such a valuable tool in your life. And for an adult and for a child, it's a necessity to create vision. And I feel like people don't really even understand that either, that, you build and develop your vision in those early years of life, and that it's really important. So wearing glasses isn't about, listening to your mom or dad. It's about growing and developing vision. And it's important that they understand that and do that. And so, you've got like a lot of dynamics that you deal with in that.
and overall, how has the industry presented that value? How has that translated to the patient level? A patient that's more than willing to grab a PD and a prescription and order online. I'm not
It hasn't.
necessarily, well, not even necessarily because of a choice they made. It's just because everybody else does it around them,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
whatever. I mean, and there's a lot of that. There's a
Hmm.
lot of that inside of technology and outside of technology. I mean, is
Hmm.
there a specific technology that you can think of over the 38 years that you really did not like and tried to get introduced? It was like kind of a disaster, you know?
I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, but I'm going to say blue light. That's,
There, you're not getting any heat. Let's be very honest about it. There are
yeah,
people.
let's be honest.
Well, hey, whether it's psychosomatic or not, if there's somebody getting a reduced effect of migraines or they feel better after they leave the computer, whatever, we know that it does block blue light. The product will definitely, you can tell, because
Yeah.
for me, when I remove any photochromatic, I get an explosion of blue. If I've worn it for 5 or 6 or 8, that's just me personally. But
Yeah.
so,
Well, I
so
feel like that was the problem. It really wasn't presented well. I feel like it was a lot of marketing without a lot of real information that was presented to people. And it was more like, oh, this is how you can sell this lens, and this is how this lens can benefit every single person, and this is how you can make some money. And I'm always, I've been around for a long time. So when
right.
products come out like that, I'm always like, okay, let's see. And, I dig into the studies and I try to look at things. And so I'm presented with, 100 seminars on, credited seminars on how to sell this particular product. But without giving the real information on the product. I'm not bashing blue light. I'm just bashing how it was presented and how it was brought out and how it, much misinformation was out there.
Oh, completely.
Yeah, and the sales were pushed before the benefit of it, and that.
Oh yeah. Well, here it's a circadian rhythm issue, and that rapidly got debunked. So here's the industry out promoting and selling that,
Yeah.
and then 2-3 years down the road, there was 2, 3, 4 articles that came out. I guess about between 2 and 3 years ago
Mm-hmm.
that highly debunked every circadian rhythm aspect of blue light blocking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are there other things going on there? Of course. Do we know the blue light has something to do with the flashy of the casino? Of course. Yeah, absolutely. We know there are things happening that stun us and draw us in and things like that from a visual standpoint. But again, to reach deep and say it's affecting everyone's sleep levels, it's not, the ADHD is quite possibly keeping them, the child staring at the phone until 3 a.m. Not,
Right. Yeah.
probably
I
not.
mean, and in reality, our best defense is to not be on our screens all the time.
There you go. Get outside.
Rather than
Which
making our screens, giving us a pair of glasses that
right,
aids us to be on our screens all the time.
right.
i.e. myopia issues right now. I mean, all of those studies, like with the Stellest lens, those studies were done with kids who were required to be outside and play, do screen breaks, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And
Oh
you know,
yeah.
I think the same thing with that lens, which we do really well. I really do like the lens. I think it's the most non-invasive myopia management option. And it's a great lens, and it's a great option to have, and the studies look all great. But you know, if you look at them, the studies aren't just wear glasses. The studies are, this is part of a plan to
Right.
help, you know, slow down myopic progression, and glasses, while being a big part of it, are not the only thing. You know, there are other things that we can add and combine with it to help. And so that, you know, it's part of what we do at the office.
I think it's exciting as heck to have plans that are structured, that aren't overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, you and I have butt heads on the, come on, give me a 3-step. It's 1, 2, 3, and you're like, it doesn't quite work that way.
No.
And well, but everybody wants a pretty little package. You know, everybody wants the pretty little neat little 1, 2, 3. It's fixed. The next patient. And
Yeah.
that, again, there's a craftsmanship of what opticianry is about that I think is a little bit lost in the weeds. But I also think that is something, because of the artistic components that are delivered from an optician, that they, if that's, you know, if you're gripping that sand and it's going through your fingers, that I do understand why some opticians get upset. Which leads me to what I think is something you champion tremendously, constantly on social media. We were talking about it before we started recording. But kindness. It's a very simple approach, but you lead with it everywhere. Um, to the point when I see you get upset, I'm paying attention. Does that make
What my family
sense?
says too.
It's like, if it's upsetting Danielle, I better perk my ears up and listen. But that, you know, talk a little bit about that. I know it sounds oversimplified, and I guess you and I both tend to lead with kindness, and always have. But speak about it, because you have talked very openly about it on social media recently.
Yeah, I mean, kindness is an opportunity that's afforded to us every day, and you know, kindness. And I feel like it's easy for me to talk about it because I can talk about these sweet children and everything that they're going through. But the reality is, it doesn't matter how old you are. You know, everybody, you know, wants to feel like your interaction meant something. You know, like that opportunity to stand in front of somebody and to talk with them and to meet them at this particular place in their life, it means something. For me, a lot of times I'm meeting a parent who's dealing with an issue with a child. Sometimes I'm meeting the child where they're at, and it can be difficult. I have this one girl. I just saw her yesterday, so she's fresh in my mind. So she's 23 or 24 now, and I've been seeing her since she was like 1 year old. And she has aniridia and other eye conditions, and she also has definitely some, you know, OCD components and stuff like that. And like, if I hand her glasses, it takes her a very long time to get her glasses on. But and in that moment, you could be frustrated. In that moment, you could be angry. In that moment, you could be thinking about everything else that you're going to, that needs to be done. Cause like, I had a million things to do, but in that moment, you know, as it takes her like literally about a minute and a half to put her glasses on to get them in the right spot. In that moment, I just thought, I'm so grateful that I get this chance to be here with her. And I think it's just a matter of attitude. And even when they're not nice people, you know what I mean? You know, you could just be like, well, I'm glad I have the moment to be here with this person, and somebody else isn't having to deal with them. You know what I mean? Like, there are different ways that you can look for it, but it's good for them, but it's good for you too, because if at the end of the day, you are so stressed out about everything that's happening, you know, it just wears you down, and physically, emotionally, mentally, all of those things. And I just think if I'm here at this moment with somebody, I just think I'm going to make the best of it. And you know, we've had a lot in the industry to deal with. I don't even want to go back to COVID. Oh my gosh, COVID was just the most stressful time for me. Everything that I was going through in that time. And we've gone from people who really just don't understand what we do. And I feel like we're always kind of like fighting that fight a little bit to try to explain to people why I can't do a pair of glasses for $19.99. And why they should spend a couple $100 more, you know, from me. And just being honest with them, not being, you know, salesy or anything like that. You know, in the end, I'm like, what matters to me is that your child gets what they need. You know, I think I can do a better job at it, you know, but in the end, if you can't do it or don't want to do it or don't value it, you know, some of that's on me and some of that's not everybody you can help. You know, you just have to be able to let things go.
Right. Well, there's always going to be that clinical moment. There's always going to be somebody in the Medicaid moment or whatnot in life where that's all they can do.
Yeah.
And you know, you can be understanding, but you don't need to compromise on what you're doing or what you're offering or how that's coming through.
Mm-hmm.
But that, you know, that tends to be a challenging moment for a lot of opticians. I
Yeah.
recently watched an optician that her heart was to get the lowest price to her patients, and her doors were closed.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm not here to criticize her, and I'm not going to point her out or her region, but, you know, she was located not in a metropolitan place.
Mm-hmm.
And she was open, but she was all about giving the people a break that were standing there saying what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's very easy to point, when this obviously much easier now in your location, your new location, to just point, just look around. This is a design that costs. Therefore, we pay that forward. You know, this
Yeah.
isn't. You're here to have an experience. You're not here to just, you know, hand the prescription to the pharmacist and get your pills later. I
Yeah.
mean,
My
it's
goal
not
is they leave and they remember the experience. My goal is, you know, when these kids grow up, they go, you know, I remember when I went and got my glasses and it was wonderful. It wasn't a sad thing. It wasn't a scary thing. It wasn't people making fun of me. I wasn't forced to get something I didn't want. You know, it was an experience where I met people who cared about me, cared about my vision. They followed me my whole life growing up. And now here I am with my own 2-year-old or 3-year-old, and they
right,
need glasses. And
right.
I look at it like, wow. So they're going to look back at it and think it's positive. They'll take that positive experience, whether they come see me or not, and they'll pass that on to their child. And, you know, it lasts. That, like you mentioned, like that kindness and those opportunities, they last.
Well, the kindness has to. I hear a lot of triads. I hear a lot of you, parent, child, and if you're not leading into kindness with both of those directions, even when someone's not kind, because we were just talking about that, that's part of it too. I certainly remember in my mobile optician days putting glasses on a woman who told me she hated me. She was screaming in my face. She would close her eyes when I was trying to measure her pupil distance. She was just mean.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was, you know, it almost became comical. It almost became like a show where the people around were watching how we went back and forth with this. And
Yeah.
I knew full well the woman that I was looking at was in a severe dementia state, was not like this. This wasn't her. It was just a moment, you know. They were hoping to bring a little clarity into her life because she wasn't kind. And I think if they could get her a set of glasses in front of her, maybe she would be a little bit more kind in the ward that she was in. But you know, so you're dealing with the opposite end, the
Yeah.
early stage people. That some people are skeptical and just not kind or whatever. That's what you're going to deal with. But how
Yeah.
you deal with it, how you deal with that energy coming towards you and what's coming back out of you, to
Mm-hmm.
me, that's everything. Was that the
Yeah.
origins of Truffles? I mean, how did Truffles
But
begin out of that, or no? Or
yeah, I mean, so Truffles, you know, she's just an office cat. We've had many office cats, you know, throughout the years, hermit crabs and things like that, which I think
right,
are great. Kids love that sort of thing. And Truffles was very, very smart. I taught her to do high five and, you know, she would jump up or down and she would wave and say hi. And she was very smart. And I just had this like really crazy idea. And I was like, well, I wonder if she'll put glasses on, like, because she would come out and give the kids high fives. And I was wondering, and she was about 6 months old, you know, just a little kitten. I was wondering, like, well, maybe I could get her to wear glasses and she could come out and show kids how to wear glasses. And so I did. I fit her with, newborn infant glasses, real glasses, and made sure they didn't hit her whiskers funny. And I gave her all the attention that I would for a baby, And I put them on her and I gave her a treat and she was like, oh, this isn't so bad, And then I taught her how to take them off. And so that became something I did at the office. I'd be like, oh, you want to see Truffles will wear glasses? And the kids were like, what? And you put them on. And then the kids would laugh and they would think it would be so fun. And they would just immediately just connect with her in a way that I couldn't connect with them, or something that would just took me so long to connect to them. So here in about 5 seconds, she all of a sudden got an 18-month-old to put glasses on because she did it, and I was like, wow, this is so easy. So that's kind of how we started it. And one of our patients was in a group on Facebook and had such an amazing experience with Truffles, and their Truffles made the biggest difference in their life. And so they did a post about it, and that post just like went crazy. I found out about it because they had, tagged the office in it and everything. And that was the beginning of Truffles. So I was faced with a decision at that point. Am I going to sell Truffles or make Truffles cartoons? Or, she was very, very popular, really, really quick. And I felt like the only thing to do that would really be true to who she was to start the Truffles the Kitty organization so that Truffles could meet kids. Yeah, there you go. Outside of the office and all around the world, because cats famously don't like to travel too much. But through the power of the internet, she can meet people
Talk
everywhere.
about the reach there. How many followers? And do you have any idea demographically where most of the following is?
I think right now the majority is the United States, and I think Britain might be, or it kind of fluctuates. Sometimes, so she'll kind of take off in a certain territory, like Germany. She was really popular for a while, and so she's been, she's been in a ton of magazines. She's been in People magazine, Time magazine. She's been in Women's World 2 times. She's been on television. She was on Access Hollywood. She was in a morning show in Australia. She was on a game show in Germany. She was just on all of these crazy, crazy things, and that popularity is great. But to be able to kind of keep that, narrowed in on what we're focused on, which is children and their vision and encouraging them, all around the world. So I think I got sidetracked there and everything that she was on. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of, how the organization started and, how she got the opportunity to kind of go, around the world and meet kids.
Yeah. And again, the idea of knocking some of the stigma down, the fear, anything to remove some of that from the experience of getting glasses. We talked about this a moment ago, that being in the industry, we tend to get a little removed from how bad a day it is when somebody gets a prescription. Oh, yeah, you need glasses, and you're dealing with very different circumstances, obviously, primarily. Not just with children, but with circumstances that children specifically have to deal with and whatnot. Let's shift real quick and talk a little bit about the legislation, because you and I were both on the legislation that we're putting together to introduce hopefully this fall in the state of Pennsylvania to make Pennsylvania a certified state. In this legislation, there would be a state board that would be formed and the governor appointed. And we talked a little bit about this. What would you like to see? That you saw in New York to make sure that it gets included here. And what came up before, I'll lead right into it, was apprenticeship. So
absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, so I mean, I started as an apprentice in the state of New York. I feel like the apprenticeship program, and I've apprenticed many opticians here in the state of Pennsylvania.
Right.
I feel like that's where, passion is shared. I feel like you can't learn in school the things that you can really learn in real life and learn from somebody who's really had their hands into things and the dynamics of different relationships and dealing with patients and those types of things. So for me, I really would love to see a robust apprenticeship program eventually here in the state of Pennsylvania as we move, from, certification, and maybe hopefully eventually into licensing in Pennsylvania. I feel like understanding what opticians do is probably our biggest battle right now, making sure that not only senators and representatives understand this, but that the public really understands what we do. Everybody I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people, every one of my patients, every parent, I asked them if they knew that that you have no requirements to be an optician in the state of Pennsylvania. And they are completely floored by this fact,
Right.
And some of them will go, oh yeah, I believe it, because they've had bad experiences. And others will be like, what? I cannot believe that at all. Even my hairdresser needs to have a license. How does an optician who makes the glasses not have a license?
Right.
And
there's all these weird champion, there's a huge champion movement to say, oh, somebody who's cutting hair shouldn't have a license. I think anybody with a sharp object near my head should have a license. No, I mean that very sincerely.
Their head too.
Pretty much, now, very, very sincerely, somewhat by default, here we are. Oh, let's become certified. The climate's perfect. Here's Gwen. The UOA is stepping in and helping us through the process. Here's the people you need to talk to. Right alongside that, somewhat inadvertently, and certainly here in Philadelphia, there will be an optician program in a charter school downtown. There's better resources for them to have a 2-year program. So here we are introducing something, and I heard you just seconds ago mention licensure because that's where you're from. The state was licensed in New York. They handled it that way. I think education kicking in with certification is going to be huge, but right at the same time, having a potentially 2-year program, this could happen kind of rapidly where we're moving quickly through certification into licensure. And when we very first started the board of, the Optician Association of Pennsylvania board back in 23, we certainly, at least in my memory, was the licensure was way down, way off the radar. There were plenty of people involved at that time that recall the introduction, the effort to become a licensed state in Harrisburg. That was a tremendous failure, 30 some years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I guess the licking of the wounds is gone, or a lot of people have shifted out or, retired or whatnot. But at the end of the day, the steps are it could happen faster than we think. But, we're still looking at a few years out before we're even seeing certification taking place on the ground. But there's, I want to say there's 600 or 700 ABO opticians in PA, in a PA's big state. That's a lot. At the end of the day, and then if these people are practicing, and even if they're semi-retired, some of them are interested in education. They want to find out what's going on. Opticians stay interested. There's a bunch of opticians involved, certainly on LinkedIn and other forums. Absolutely, opticians on Facebook that are older and retired, or semi-retired, or even in other industries, which I find interesting. I think that's a huge, tip of the hat, a positive sign, of the work that is being done. But you're right; it is kind of surprising that people did, that there was no. Or that you can talk to other professionals and they think, gosh, there's no requirement at all in PA to do anything. Now, but I want to talk about this because I talked about it with Michelle, and I think that you were a strong catalyst in this to say, make grandfathering in this legislation the way that it ought to be. So in other words, of course we want you to, in 6 or 8 months or 2 years, become certified. But the reality is a 70, 80-year-old optician who is still practicing is not going to do that. And I'll go for, I'm going to say even somebody in their 50s. If they've been practicing for a long time and they're not, if you want to put it in as registered or however we distinguish the two, you're a master optician. There's nothing, to me, that is a proud thing to say. But what does that mean to a patient? What does that mean to other opticians? I don't know that. So I think as we do this, how the scaling goes, what the goals are, what's involved, and how they relate to patient care, not me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, that's the goal, is to make sure that anybody who is doing the job as an optician is somehow registered with the board, so that we can, make sure that they're doing the job well, in the way it should be done. When it comes to those who are being grandfathered in, I mean, these people have put in a lot of time. And I'm a firm believer, as we can't really legislate the past. We can only, regulate and, move forward into the future.
Right.
So I don't want to cause any harm to them. It's not their fault that Pennsylvania didn't have these requirements when they started, and they've invested a lot of time in their communities and invested a lot of their life into people that they care about and have provided for them. And so I don't think that they should be just, counted out, or forced at this point to become, certified, just, to register with the state. And, eventually, those guys are going to be gone, and the new people coming up, those are the people we need to make sure that they understand what they're doing and can do it well and really serve our communities well. Because there is, unfortunately, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make a mistake. And that mistake can really hurt people. I mean, we always say, like, oh, it's, nobody's going to, die from wearing the wrong pair of glasses. But, I work with children. And if you put those lenses in the wrong eyes, which I have seen a few times, that can really affect their vision and their ability to develop vision. So, I mean, and everybody is different. Somebody wears glasses wrong. I mean, there's just, and to me, it doesn't really matter if somebody has a traumatic problem from it or not. The thing is that the person performing these duties did not understand what needed to be done, right? and so that should be on us as a profession to make sure that we have opticians that are doing what needs to be done and understand what they're doing.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've seen popping up recently are because, and I don't know what's driving this. By the way, I don't know what's driving the lack of a perception of need for value for the optician. But I ran into a woman a few weeks ago who, just talking. And I'm like, what's up with your glasses? And she's like, oh, I got these somewhere else and put my lenses in them. And I'm like, you're not seeing so well, are you? Because I can visually tell she's got right and left switched. I can just look and tell, I mean, it's not.
Yeah, I love that.
It's a Zyle frame, so you can go, hey, do you mind if I switch these for you? I'm an optician. We're not in any professional setting. But man, I saved this woman's life. I don't know the difference between the two, but she's walking around left or right. And here's the reality. The reality is that afterwards, I honestly believe by dinner time she totally forget the entire incident. Mm-hmm. And again, what value are we presenting? What are we instilling in them? Because I certainly didn't do it as if, oh, you dumb dingbat, let me fix this for you. I didn't. That wasn't my attitude. It was very obvious that she had the lenses switched because you could see the shape was a little bit off, or the other one. And this is an entire show. We won't go too far down this road. But the other one is people 3D printing broken glasses, and that what I just said is happening. Know that people are switching lefts for rights, or just in general, because how many shapes look very identical? The frame that you have on right there, it's not perfectly round, but it could certainly be.
You could easily, yeah.
Yes, if you don't know what you're doing, absolutely. So, again, there's ways for us to make this a friendly thing. I don't want to go too far down the weird marketing road, but I tend to enjoy the subtle humor.
Yeah.
like the Specsavers ads and things like that, where people are just flagrantly yelling at the wrong person or something like that because they can't see or whatever. But it's, to me, if we can make it fun, I think that we'll connect a little bit better because
Uh-huh.
getting back to that kindness,
Mhm.
there's a reason you and I talk about kindness, and it's because in some rooms it's missing. And,
Yeah.
we're not going to go down that road heavily and hard, but it kindness wins every time.
Hmm.
And at least that's what I believe. It certainly tends to reign true because people are going to be more apt to listen when
Yeah.
when I think that that's happening, which is huge. Lastly, you have a board of directors position.
Yeah, at the Truffles the Kitty organization, yes, we are looking to increase our board. So anybody's interested, they can send their resume to tko@trufflesthekitty.org. We are looking for people to help us just bring truffles better to kids in the community. We have a lot of outreaches, a lot of different programs. We do pretty good with them. They get all around, but we're looking for people more like not on the internet, but more like boots on the ground kind of people who will come in and, help us
Someone close to
troubles.
someone
Yeah.
close to the mid state, basically,
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
you're.
We'd love to
Okay.
have somebody here in Pennsylvania, a couple people here in Pennsylvania, but we'd want to have some sort of optical understanding background sort of thing.
Hmm.
And can help us sort of reach people at different levels because Troubles has so many different programs, that can help doctors' offices that, maybe they're not, social media heavy. I mean, I feel like that's kind of changing a little bit. You're starting to see some of that, and a lot of offices will
I,
share
I,
Truffles and posts and stuff
I
like that.
agree. I agree, and I think some of it's riding on coattails because they just don't know what to do. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, the messages are constant. There are themes that we all support. We believe in. We believe in early eye care, and that's a whole other hour that we could spend because there's other legislation that has nothing to do with what we talked about.
Yeah.
Specifically for regulating early eye care for children in the state of
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. The early eye
Um,
care. Yeah.
and I think the implications of that through not just Medicaid but other
Hmm.
implementations are going to it's going to enable people that you're beginning to work with that
Hmm.
have knowledge. They're going to
Right.
have some understanding because just because eyes are developing once you're born doesn't mean the care should start later. And
Hmm. Yeah.
Tony Summer and a few others on LinkedIn. Again, care should be happening
Hmm.
in when a child's born. Why
Yeah. And
is
people
why
often
is there
think
not an
they're,
ophthalmologist there? Why
yeah.
there ought
Yeah.
to be, and automatically, and hands down.
And yeah, there are for like preemies and stuff like that, but there really aren't, early on. And I think people still have a little bit of that idea that eyes go bad as you get old, that it's not a person, not something that can happen as a young child. And what I see more and more these days are parents who don't wear glasses at all, and now their child needs to wear glasses. And boy, they need a lot of help understanding, why they need to wear glasses and, just the very basics that you might take for granted of cleaning and caring for the glasses that a parent who's never worn glasses their whole life doesn't really know. How am I going to get my child to wear glasses? I don't even know what it feels like to wear glasses. I don't even know what the experience is like. And now I have to help my 2-year-old, my 4-year-old, through this process. And that's like a whole other area of ways that we need to help people.
I agree. Uh, the most upset I've ever been as an optician was, dispensing the -4s to the 7-year-old
Hmm.
and looking at two parents without glasses and going, how long was he holding stuff like this before you
Hmm.
had some clue that your child couldn't see? And I'm angry because he's lost 2 or 3 years of Little League, but you know what? That's not I can't fix that. So
No.
there's no sense in being angry. I need to just swallow that, get on. You got clear vision going forward, get on with it. And again, there was no malicious intent. It was just
Hmm.
cluelessness. It was just parents
Yeah.
facing phone, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's part of opticianry.
It probably never occurred to them, that he would have a vision issue because
They
They
do.
don't have any vision issues, you know. The
Yep.
only people in their family who wear glasses were probably grandma and grandpa, you know. So they probably don't have any of that. Of course, with myopia really being, you know, becoming so prevalent in our society, you know, we are getting kids myopic whose parents were not myopic. Of course, we have parents who are myopic and their kids are too, but, you
Right.
know, I do feel like we see, and a lot of that is because we do have a great way of meeting kids and giving them eye care at young ages. We can improve and we can definitely do better.
Right.
But we do have devices like the spot photo screeners and stuff like that that helps us helps a general person who doesn't have a lot of eye care knowledge can perform a quick screening and identify some issues before a child can talk, maybe before the child's eye starts to turn or any of those types of things. Pediatricians are doing these. It used to be you didn't get your first vision screening until 5 or 6, you know, if you could do letters and stuff like that.
Talk about that.
So
Talk about that technology. So it's easily accessible for.
yeah. So I mean, so here in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Association for the Blind does vision screenings in preschools. So they're hitting, you know, 1 and 2 year olds, and they can, you know, do that screener testing.
Awesome.
It can identify, you know, possible amblyopia. It can identify astigmatism. So hard to find astigmatism in little kids. It's important to correct it at a young age and to
Right.
follow it regularly. Of course, the farsightedness and the nearsightedness as well.
Absolutely.
So that technology, I think, has been a game changer in getting young kids
Right.
identified so that they can get the proper correction that they need to
Right.
continue to grow and develop vision properly so that when they're
Right.
7, 8, and 9, they're seeing well and able to see well, as opposed to not being able to catch it at an early age where that vision may never really go up to the levels that it could be.
Mm-hmm. Or how overwhelming it can be to suddenly put on your, 4-cylinder lens is like, whoa, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell kids they're they're usually like, you know, usually when you put that astigmatism correction for the first time, you know, they look down at the floor and it's like, oh, you know, and I'm like, and they look down at the floor and they're like afraid to make a move, and I'll say to them, I'll be like, oh, does the floor look funny? And they'll be like, yeah. And I was like, does it look like a slide or a mountain? And they'll be like, it's a slide. And I'm like, oh, cool, you got the slide. That's great. Now the slide's gonna go away, so just enjoy it while it's there. And I'll tell you what, the kids, they just take that and they're like, okay.
Yeah, again, how you approach it, how it's made. I think it's huge, and there's so.
Recognizing, affirming, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, well, and you and I have talked a lot about the psychology of glasses in previous interviews, and just whenever whenever I have a chance to go there with you, because to me, I don't know, the psychology part of it is huge. We talked very briefly before we were recording about people dealing with very poor vision,
Mm-hmm.
and how the psyche has to take a little bit of a different approach from the optician, in that there's a different level of sensitivity when you know people aren't going to get vision back.
Yeah.
And again, how that's handled and how you address it is part of the skill and the art of being.
Yeah. And back to my new location, you know, we have a soft sensory room in our location. And it's so nice to be able to take kids who just need a little bit quieter environment, some kids who kind of just need to like know what the steps are that's going to happen, and to take them into a place that is just quiet. It's our library in the town, so we have lots of books about wearing glasses and things like that, and we have therapeutic teddy bears. They're all weighted, and just sensory types of items for kids, maybe on the spectrum, who just need like something to fixate on, while we're doing what we need to do. Maybe I'm measuring a PD and they just need to have something that, makes them feel secure and feel safe. And that was one of the things we were able, that I was really excited to be able to offer in our new location, and as well as other things. But, I feel like everybody is different, and just kind of meeting them where they're at. And I never know the child who's going to walk in the door. So I try to get some information sometimes when they schedule, but, you never know. Like on your schedule, it's like, I have an 11-year-old coming in, but that 11-year-old could be on a respirator, in a wheelchair. The 11-year-old could have hearing aids or no ears, or you know what I mean? Like, you just never know what's coming in the door. You know, you can't really take a person and put a person on the schedule. You have a name and a date of birth, and you know what they're there for, but that's about it. So you just got to be ready to receive them wherever they're at. And that's part of having an environment that I'm so blessed to have, this environment that I can know that I can meet kids wherever they're at.
I actually think that you're one of the rare circumstances where less is more as far as like who's coming in, you know, because you're a big believer in wiping out the preconceived notions. You know, the more info I'm looking at, the less I'm going to ask, maybe. I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't know. I think it's a very unique approach, and I think it speaks to the one-on-one with that individual.
Yeah,
You know?
and we all kind of struggle for that, I think, sometimes. And you know, I do sometimes get that, you know, well, I just want to come in. People say, I just want to look at glasses. Do I have to have an appointment? Yeah, you do. like I'm not going to be offended. Like, I don't get offended by that anymore. I used to be like, wait, you don't just look at glasses. Have you any idea how much work I do to help you to just look at glasses? You know, like, your child walks in the door, and I did a blog on this on my post, and like, you know, okay, I have 500 frames on the board, and I'm already like zeroing down like what frames I think are going to work for your child, you know, based on how they look and what their prescription is and all that kind of stuff. And like, that stuff that needs to be done, you know, you don't just look at glasses, you know, you're getting a very important item that's going to be with your child their whole life, you know, all the time, every day. You know, it's very important that you have my help, you know.
Again, what's being sold isn't a pair of glasses. What's being sold is the environment, the technique, the understanding, the listening.
Yeah, and the knowledge that comes from being an eye care professional, you know. And that's what opticians are. We are eye care professionals, you know.
Oh, completely. And and we know the value of that. We know the infringement upon the perception of the value of that. But I think what better place to start than with the work that you're doing? Because your impressions are not only going across the optical world, but with anybody who's ever been through your practice and left seeing clearly as a parent, as a child. You know, that it's an experience, and you treat it that way.
Yeah.
So in my mind, that, and again, here we are. Give me 3 steps, you know, and you're like, it just doesn't work that way, Pete. Well, I'm sorry, I can't do it, you know. But there's always going to be that tug of war. There is always going to be that tug of war where the industry just wants a 1, 2, 3. Digital technology was very similar. When digital lens technology arose, you know, even to this day, we have a grip of visual acuity booster points and how many are across the back surface of lenses and stuff like that. We understand the compensated difference between a digital, what we're reading, and what the doc wrote. But at the end of the day, you know, what's going on? Why is it there? How do we work with it? Which leads us to stuff like the Stellest lens. Because, you know, as we learn how to work with it, and you hit it earlier, it's a process. You're not selling a thing. You're selling an experience and a process, and this is how we do what we do. So yeah, you do need an appointment.
Yeah, you do need an appointment, you know, and I think in the end they'll recognize why.
Right.
But they certainly first come in with that, like, oh, like, you know, what do you mean I just want to look at glasses? Oh, like, okay, I've got my work cut out for me. I'm going to make sure you understand. You don't just look at glasses by the end.
This is where the evil side of me is like, I'll give you a website. You can send them to it, and we'll have an optician waiting for you. I mean, that's what we do. But there is a lot of truth to what we just said. It is not a thing. It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process. And it's an experience. It's an adventure. It's many of those things. You know, all in one. Anytime you work with the public, it's always an adventure, you know. And I think, you know, we are medical professionals. We have eye care professionals, but we also deal with the public, and we get them on their best days. We get them on their worst days. You know, in the end, you know, you just try to be that stable person that they interact with.
Well, and let's not lose sight of the fact that we happen to be in our professional careers while legislation is being formulated.
Yeah.
And that whether we planned it or not, we're leading the way for what is going to happen across the country.
I'm
And
excited about that. I really am. I'm excited about what's happened. It's exciting to be an optician in Pennsylvania right now. It really is. It's exciting to see the potential and the things that can happen. You know, I feel like certification, you know, is really the first step. I feel like we can do a lot if we have a state board. We can do a lot to help educate our communities about the work that we do, how valuable it is, how important it is, and how it affects their everyday life. And we have an opportunity to, you know, raise the bar here in opticianry to make a standard for everybody to live up to a standard of expectations, so that our, you know, our communities can expect this from the opticians that are here in Pennsylvania. So it is exciting. It's, you know, a lot of work going on, but it is exciting. And this is our first time in a long time that we've got some, you know, real possibilities of making something like this happen. So that's why I decided to be, you know, involved. And I know you too, Peter. I know you feel exactly the same way.
exactly, yeah.
So it is exciting, hard work, but very exciting.
Yeah, well, the hard work's always going to be there, and that's okay. But again, you know, it's kind of funny how by default we're stumbling into, oh, we just happen to be leading the way with certification. Oh, look, there's a potential 2-year program developing in Philadelphia. It's happening fast, exciting as heck. And the technology that is coming down the tubes is just awesome. You know,
So much technology in opticianry, you know, it has changed so much. I mean, I still love the good old, like, you know, hand faceting lenses.
right, right.
I mean, I love, that was like my favorite thing to do, you know, and faceting back in the 80s, 90s,
Yeah.
early 90s, when faceting was like really
Oh,
like
yeah.
very popular, and all the tints and stuff like that. You know, the artistic side of me really, really enjoys that.
The facet works and the blue rose tints and, you know, oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it
but
was
you
fun.
still have a lot of that with our new machinery, with different shapes of lenses and stuff like that. So there's lots of things that you know, an optician can do, that you'll never get online. You know, you'll never get somebody being able to buy something like that online. Would you get glasses you can see out of? Maybe, hopefully.
Well,
But you know, if
I
you
don't.
want something special or you have a high prescription, I mean, you can't. They can't provide that kind of service well enough online. They just really can't.
Not only that, there's opportunities for all kinds of clever, you know, repair seminars, all different types of CEs to connect online work, online verifications. I mean, these things are happening. They're formulating. They're in place, and it's exciting. You know, you're right. It's definitely an amazing time to be an optician, and in Pennsylvania is where to be right now. So.
Yeah.
Dimitri and I were joking about that after the last interview. He's like, "What's in the water there?" I'm like, "Yeah."
We
Oh,
have
I think.
passionate opticians here in PA. I think that's something, you know, that I enjoy. I love talking and speaking with other opticians in
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania. I go and meet all of my opticians in my area, where, you know, we help each other, we support each other, whether they're independent opticians, you know, working down the road, or they're opticians working at, you know, multi locations
Right.
who do their job. You know, we talk to each other. I love to go out and meet them, tell them what I do. I'm like, hey, if I can help, let me know. You know, it's nice for me to know if I can send somebody to you, and support each other. But I feel like overall, opticians in the state of Pennsylvania, and maybe because we didn't have licensing, we had a lot of passion for supporting each other, because that's where the support comes from. You know, and I wouldn't want to lose that with this bill either. And I think that, you know, that's something that I don't think we will either. I think that is something that will just give us more opportunities to reach out, you know,
Right.
beyond my, you know, 5 mile drive.
Well, I think that, and you've always lived in this lane of, you know, working very closely with optometry and ophthalmologists that are right around you. But, you know, I think to have that involved at the state board level. And before we wrap up, let's talk briefly about that. Obviously, this legislation would create a state board, governor appointed, and the seats on that board vary dramatically, but there's still predominantly independent opticians on that board. Correct me if I'm
There
wrong.
is an independent optician. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was really important.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but not
As
only
well
that.
as a higher certified optician as well on the board.
Right,
So
that was
there
the
would
other
be
thing
an
I was going
advanced
to say.
advanced or mastered certified optician on the
Mm-hmm.
board, an independent optician, two other opticians, and a
Somebody from
what?
outside. Somebody from
Yeah,
outside
somebody
the
from
industry.
outside that has no optical
Right,
influence one way or the other,
right.
an optometrist or ophthalmologist, and also a retail chain representative.
And again, any table where all those people are sitting together should be good. There
Yeah,
should
yeah,
not
yeah.
be bad
But
things
it
that
is primarily optician. The board is more than 50%, which we had to kind of get there. Opticians on the board. I felt like that was really important. We can always benefit from having somebody that's has more knowledge, not just certified, but advanced or master certified. And we are, to me, I think, being very gracious about having an optometrist or ophthalmologist on the board as well too, so that we can hopefully. I mean, we work together, so we need to work together.
we do. Well,
Yeah.
they're the insurance processing agent of what we do, and yeah, completely. I think that it's a good place to start. It's not as if this board's going to be slamming a gavel and forming legislation. I think hopefully what they're there to do is help the existing people in eye care
Right.
at all different levels, and to elevate every aspect of what we do.
Yeah.
That is the crux of the biscuit, and I think that we're heading in the right way, or in the right direction. The right way, I guess, is a better way of putting it. And it's exciting, like you said.
Yeah,
Well,
it is exciting.
we've managed to yap for an hour,
Yeah.
so thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of Optometry Profits Revealed. I'm your host, Peter Preck. There will be links to the Truffles the Kitty organization,
Thank you.
certainly information about a child's eyes, and any other information that you want me to share. Please let me know, Danielle.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much, everybody. If any of the technology you're interested in, if you want to answer our quiz, I'd greatly appreciate it. We'll get back with you and give you an idea where you stand technology-wise. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week.